Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, the Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store. And Merry Christmas, Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League fans. Welcome into the 2024 Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League podcast Christmas special on your home for mmjhl hockey here. On your home for hockey in Manitoba on G-Show Productions on gshow.ca. I'm your host, Graham, the G-Show Forsyth. Pumped to be here on this pre-recorded edition of this podcast on Christmas 2024. I hope that everyone's been having a wonderful Christmas so far for those celebrating it, and to those who don't celebrate Christmas, I hope that you are having a wonderful holiday season, and I wish everyone the best coming up in 2025. We are going to have a lot to talk about in this episode this morning, as we're going to be going through all 10 teams in the mmjhl. We're going to be showing you the matchups of the playoffs that would be set today if playoffs were to end at this point. Of course, we still got plenty of hockey left to be played, so that's not totally set in stone, but it may give us a good idea of what we may come to expect come the first round of the playoffs this year in the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League. We'll also show you standings, power rankings, and all that fun stuff coming up in this edition of the MMJHL podcast on G-Show Productions on gshow.ca. We are going to hit a transition here, and then we'll be back for our first little part of this Christmas special here on gshow.ca. While we're into the holiday break in the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League, the league won't be resuming its games until first Thursday of 2025, which is on January 2nd, a game which we'll have on the network from St. Vital between the Victorias and the Charleswood Hawks. But as for how the standings look here heading into the break, Transcona is actually at 41 points, as they are still maintaining their lead over the Charleswood Hawks in the standings. They'd actually be at, I believe here, 43 points instead of 41, so they got a 4-point advantage over Charleswood right now. Fort Garry only 2 points behind the Hawks heading into the break. The Riels dropped their final game of 2024 against Fort Garry, so for the Riels, they're actually at 36 points. For St. Vital, St. James, the rest, all of these point totals are correct. St. James has been a team that's been making their way up the standings as the season's been going along, and hey, based off their strong play recently, they also got a boost in our power rankings this week. The Railer Express ended up going a spot down, or 3 spots down actually, as they were number 1 last week in the power rankings. As for the St. Boniface Riels, They end up falling a spot from number one. The Twins, the hottest team in the league, with 5 straight wins heading into the holiday break. The Vicks, as well as the Hawks, maintain their places in the power rankings. For the Vicks, 6th, for the Hawks at 3rd. And as for the Stonewall Jets, an 0-4 weekend for them. They end up falling down a spot compared to the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, who, hey, despite having that long losing streak at one point, they end off with a huge 5-3 victory against the St. James Junior Canucks this past Sunday here in the mmjhl. So those are our power rankings, brought to you by McKenna Fasteners and Tools, your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs. Be sure to check out their website at mckenfasteners.shop for more, as well as their store locations in Brandon and Winnipeg today. Speaking of great matchups here in the mmjhl, we had a chance to cover one of them recently, as a few Fridays ago now, the Railer Express and the Charleswood Hawks faced off against each other at Iroquois for a game that we were calling on G-Show Productions on mmjhl game day, and to that point, Transcona held a 2-0 head-to-head season series lead over the Hawks, with Charleswood looking to change it a few weeks ago. The home side, the Charleswood Hawks, are set to get underway here shortly against the visiting side in the Transcona Railer Express. Tries getting it into the slot, but can't there. Now Maroney sticking out that glove, try to take away that pass, but couldn't for now. Van Alstyne looking to hold the line. Oh, gets blown up there as the linesman has his arm up, but that's not indicating any penalty coming, of course. The referee's just letting him play here on, but here's Penner coming in, takes a short pass. Oh, what a rip from Penner, opens the scoring here on this Friday night at Iroquois for the Charleswood Hawks. Vic Fusson tried to hold the line there for the Hawks, but couldn't. Turned it over to Hal, who plays it up to a teammate, and now sent to Keaton Johnson, who, stone cold there by number 1 and Keegan Gordon. Austin Campbell now skating the other way, able to squeeze through Trevor. Somehow Campbell still maintaining this puck into the slot, but oh, what a save by Gordon to rob Sorrell on a grade A chance. Shot turned aside by Maroney upon entry. Sperber able to get that back to Lewis. Gets us into the slot for Krekowitz, who is creeping up, but wide of the net that goes. Now into the slot for Lewis. Another huge save by Maroney here. Hawks, though, able to turn this up and turn a turnover into a giveaway for them. Is that, back door, unable to capitalize. 2 Railer Express players run into each other there, causing a turnover. Fanning on it, and Fanning again was Carlson, but gets it through towards the front of the net. Now held in by Krekowitz and scores! Krekowitz ends up getting his first point as a Charleswood Hawk, as the Railer Express look to respond as Gordon, his defenseman just keeping this one out in the blue paint. They've already made some trades. They do another one, with Krekowitz being sent over to this Charleswood team. As turnover in front of the Transcona net, Maroney able to hold this puck out. Lewis now protecting along the wall, saucers this down low to Carlson, who saucers this opposite point to Stevenson. His shot through low, turned aside by Maroney with 57 seconds left on the man advantage. Hawks continue to work it, as it ends up to Carlson. Passes to Stevenson as he's denied by number 1 in Maroney. As the Hawks able to work this one up again, it's McPherson loses the handle on this. This puck bounces over his stick. He still continues down low. However, almost got possession back of that puck. Van Alstyne now from the puck. His shot scores! Vandenbush back to Larkins. To Vandenbush up top. Vandenbush, his shot blocked there by Lewis. Huge by number 19. Vandenbush with it back. Another huge block by the stick this time of number 19 and Lewis. Bat that puck down in the corner. Worked it up to the point to Austin Campbell. Works this across to Larkins. Back to Campbell. Now he unloads, but another huge block from Charleswood. Declan Whiteman now spinning away from the check-in of McPherson. Tries to one-touch deke, but loses his puck. Fanned on it. It's to Penner's stick. Penner backdoor. Somehow, some way staying out. Was that off the post or the pad? They've been outshot in this one. Also outscored 3-0. Penner adds to it his his second of the game, the 4th of the night for this Charleswood Hawks team in total. Battled along there with Rowan Co. This chipped out by Jacob Howell. It's Vandenbush trying to get past Carlson after he loses an edge. Vandenbush touch scores! Shutout broken for this Transcona team. But nonetheless, for Gordon, he gets what matters the most, which is a huge win for Charleswood. Maybe their biggest of the season against the Transcona Railer Express. As Gordon picks up number 15 in the win column tonight. And a huge win for the Charleswood Hawks a few weeks ago. Last weekend, actually, not this past weekend. That's when that matchup ended up happening. And yeah, Charleswood with their best showing of the season against Transcona at that point. Gonna be exciting to see what these two teams have in store for each other in matchup number 4, which is coming up in 2025. We'll take a look at some stats leaders, as very interesting at the top. Dean Gorchinski and Tyler Rubini both tied with 52 points each. Hal Mandaris and Netraduk both up in their point totals as well, heading into the holiday break. No goaltender's been better than Keegan Gordon when it comes to winning this season, with 16 wins, only 6 losses on the year. Alex Pauls, though, an impressive 4 shutouts in his 12-2-1 record. Logan Maroney, rookie goaltender, with only 1 loss on his mantle so far. And O'Sullivan and Murphy rounding out that top 5 there for goaltenders. As for the goals and assist leaders, Rubini up to 24 goals from his previous mark at 22, while Dean Gorchinski continues to rack up the assists, now at 38. Netraduk has finally gotten back into the assist category, up in that by 2 as well, as he was at 30 last time checked in on this. And yeah, 3-way tie with the assist leaders there. As you can see, the full stats available on mmjhl.ca. We are going to take a commercial break here, and we'll be back for taking a look at the playoff matchups if we were to end the season today, as well as taking a look into all 10 teams. What's the story here so far in 2024-2025 for them as we head into the Christmas break, officially in that right now, on this Christmas special of the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League podcast here on G-Show Productions on gshow.ca. Stick around for more after this commercial break. Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has been the place to shop for your industrial needs for over 20 years. Carrying the tools you need to get the job done from the brands you can trust, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has you covered. Brands like Milwaukee Tool, established in 1924 and on display in our Milwaukee Red Zone, the largest red zone in Winnipeg. With construction workers and tradespeople in mind, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools is your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs. So come on down to our Winnipeg store location today, located on 1557 King Edward Street in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Welcome back, everybody, into the Christmas special of the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League podcast here in 2024. 2025 upon us soon here. Excited for what's to come, as it's going to be, I think, one heck of an end to this year's MMJHL season. I mean, it's always a heck of an end to it, no matter what, because, this is a league that it's entertaining year in and year out. Of course, a lot of big storylines heading into this year, like the St. James Junior Canucks going for, their chance at a four-peat this year. They're, in the middle of the pack in the standings at this point in the year. We talked at the start of the season looking at teams like Stonewall and Transcona. We talked about, could they end up making that next step? There's also teams that, of course, that are searching still for championships, that have good squads, and squads that, are veteran heavy. Teams like the Fort Garry Twins, like the St. Vital Junior Victorias, of course the Charleswood Hawks, back-to-back Final Four finishes the last 2 years, and they, of course, got one of the best teams in the league. Mentioned the Railers as that team that I thought would take that next step. I said, Yeah, they could make that jump to the middle of the pack of the standings, but they've done much more than that. 43 points in 26 games played, leading the league right now with a 23-3 record. So, yeah, St. James, ended up starting off the season slow. Now, like I said, in the middle of the pack in the standings. So, things are getting quite intriguing for sure, and also kind of intriguing that Pembina Valley is most likely going to be missing the playoffs here for one of their few times in franchise history, as they currently only got 3 wins on the schedule that they played so far. I want to clarify one thing before we get into it here, though. We talked about the Ty Sadowski incident many times here on this podcast already and on mmjhl game day broadcasts, and I had been told that Aiden Worthfield was the one who ended up causing what happened to Ty Sadowski to happen. That wasn't the case. It ended up being Rory Neal. He's on the stat sheet as the one who ended up getting kicked out of the game and getting the penalty. I've heard from a source, I can't confirm it, but yeah, it's something we'll be keeping an eye on in that situation, as I'm not sure it's been solved yet. We'll have more clarification coming up on that in upcoming episodes to keep you up to date with that story. But I do want to clarify that Ty Sadowski, from all the reports that we've been hearing, is in good health and has been recovering at home. Yeah, once again, shout out to the doctors, the trainers, or I guess the trainers, not the doctors, but the trainers for acting as fast as they did when the incident did occur, and for getting tied to the hospital. And yeah, the tests and the scans all came back with good news. Nothing serious for Ty at the end of it. So yeah, that's all you like to hear at the end of the day. But I thought I'd clarify that for you all, that it wasn't Werfel. It was Rory Neal who ended up getting the penalty, kicked out of that game, and the one who ended up causing that. And I mean, like, I never ended up seeing the clip. I never ended up seeing video of it, so I can't, analyze or critique, what transpired. But yeah, at the end of it, we'll end off with just happy that Ty Sadowski ends up being okay, and hopefully we can, yeah, not see something like that occur again this mmjhl season. A lot of it still left to be played, as we're only at the halfway point. Once again, I look at the goals and assist leaders here in the league, brought to you by Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia. Another look at the points leaders and goaltending leaders as well. But this is the matchups of how we would be looking at the first round of the playoffs if the season were to end today. The Railer Express, with the number 1 seed, would be taking on the 8th seed in the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. The Railer Express, the 4th seed, would be taking on the 5th seed in the St. Vital Junior Victorias. Fort Garry would get St. James in the 3 versus 6 matchup, and in the 2 versus 7 matchup, Charleswood would be taking on the Stonewall Jets. Yeah, no offense to the Raiders and the Jets, but I feel like the Railers and Hawks both have a chance if these series were to be played to make quick work out of these two teams to advance into the next round. I think that where we would probably see out of these matchups closer series that could go the distance would most likely be, of course, Fort Garry and St. James and St. Boniface and St. Vital. Yeah, I think that for Fort Garry, with as much as they got on the line this season, that would be the most highly anticipated series, I think, in the first round, in my opinion, given that Fort Garry hasn't made it past the first round since around 2012. And St. James is, of course, still defending their title, looking for a four-peat in a team that's gotten better and better as the season's gone along. Our award favorites right now, Rory Neal for both MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. He's top 5 in points and has been The biggest part of this turnaround, I feel like, for St. James, along with, of course, that team just getting more comfortable with their systems and the process and all that. But Rory Neal has been the difference maker and has been the one setting the pace for the St. James Junior Canucks so far this year. As the captain of the Canucks, early award favorites for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, or Defenseman of the Year in the mmjhl, as I believe that's how they refer to it. Keegan Gordon, Goalie of the Year award front runner right now, as he's got 16 wins, solid save percentage, some shutouts to his name, but don't sleep on Alex Pauls, as he could very well win this award when it's all said and done at the end of this year, depending on how Fort Gary continues to, do in the standings and how his stats look. Rookie of the Year, Sage Delarone, goaltender for the Transcon Railer Express. The simple reason is he's been named Rookie of the Month first 2 months of the year. His number is a bit stronger overall than his counterpart in Logan Maroney. And yeah, that's something that could very well change as we get to the end of the season as well. But with Sage winning Rookie of the Month, back-to-back months to start off this year, he's the favorite in that award for sure so far this year. I was thinking of doing actual playoff predictions, but I want to save that for our playoff special, which is going to be airing in 2025, of course. But yeah, let's get into the outlook on all of these teams here in the league, starting off with the Pembina Valley Twisters. In unfamiliar territory, of course. We haven't seen the Twisters, at least in my time covering this league and keeping tabs on it, with this type of record. They're only at 7 points. They have 3 wins, 21 losses, and an OT loss on the season. 53 goals for 146 goals against. For this team at this point, it's about trust in the process, right? Knowing that, of course, this isn't going to be your year. Playoffs seem like they're out of the question at this point, unless this team's able to somehow turn it around in a dramatic fashion. But this is a team that's already moved out guys that, of course, are going to be heading into or in their last years. And Mike Hepner and Alex Van Dynes, they've been able to bring, of course, some guys that have a chance to be here and compete for roster spots next year. And I think for Pembina Valley, for the players on the team, this is huge. The second half of the season to really build some good habits for the players that are going to be here next year potentially to get a head start, get out on the right foot. And yeah, I mean, obviously you still want to play to win the game, but focus on your process more. Don't worry as much about trying to get into the win column perhaps, and focus more on building those good habits heading into next year for the players, proving that you're going to be competitive and still compete to the end and fight for, roster spots, fight for your ice time at that. So that's the outlook on the Pembina Valley Twisters. For the other non-playoff team right now in the River East Royal Knights, playoff hopes in serious question right now. Look, this is a team that started off the season 2-0. Since opening weekend, it's been a mess for this team. They've only been able to get to 5 wins at this point in the year, 19 losses in regulation, 2 extra time losses. A team that's on a 4-game losing streak heading into the break, and a team that's truly lacking offense. I went back and looked at their 2023-2020, or their 2022-2023 season 2 years ago, when they finished second place. They had phenomenal goaltending, yes, but the offensive numbers was just over 4 goals per game. Well, in their last 71 games, they've averaged just under 3 goals a game. So, yeah, Anthony Jacob, the only player on this team with over 10 goals. This is a team that, really lacking offense. And, as a result, especially with their special teams, with how they're near the bottom of the league or at the bottom of the league, that's made things tough for them in the defensive zone, right? So I think there's a chance here for River East. I mean, if they get hot and stay in the thick of things in the playoff race, great. But thinking long term, like, you get a tough first round matchup either way if you're 8th or 7th, most likely. And for this team, knowing that there's still potentially a lot to look forward to for the next few years with how young this roster is. They only have 201s on this team, so I'm interested to see if Barry Bonnie ends up pulling off a trade. His trade deadline is going to be coming up very soon here in the league before we know it. But for River East, another season where it's been disappointing in the score column at this point in the year. A team that is, of course, looking for the players that are there for a huge 2025. As for the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, they became sellers. This is a team that still has a very good chance of making it into the playoffs, but they became sellers. They ended up making some trades, most notably trading away Goodbrants and Melstead to Stonewall Jets, which we'll get into in just a moment here, talking about that move specifically. But yeah, this is a team that also dealt away Eric Krekowitz. They have no O3s left on the roster, and you got to be thinking long term if you're the Raiders at this point, thinking about the next 2 to 3 years in terms of building and molding this group that you have now that's full of O4s, O5s, O6s, some O7 players in there. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity for the Raiders, right? Because at this point in the year, maybe teams in the league are writing you off, knowing that you're eighth place and have fallen down through the standings. You've given away, some veteran players. So now you're a young team and you really got nothing to lose at this point. So yeah, thinking long term in terms of, building for the future in terms of having the youth they do have on the roster now. But this is quite an opportunity for them this year if they are able to get into the playoffs for this young group to gain some good playoff experience, some meaningful games that they can, put under their belt and look at those experiences maybe moving into next year as the Raiders are going to be planning to, I feel like, come back big and kind of turn the page on the last few years as it's been more struggles as of recently with this Raiders Junior Hockey Club, a team that won championships in the 2010s, missed the playoffs 2 years ago and made it into the playoffs as the 7th seed last season. As for the Stonewall Jets, it was a bleak December for them. They only had one win on the schedule, and they went shopping but left empty handed. I'll explain what I mean by this. So, the Stonewall Jets, as mentioned, made that trade with the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, sending players like Jack Darrett over to the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. We'll pull up the full move right now. But yes, they sent Jack Darrett, Cole Kennedy, and Mason Larveld and Brandon Burak, as well as Campbell Epp, to the to the Raiders Junior Hockey Club in return for Goodbranson, Melstead, and Logan Clark. Well, the problem with this is that the Stonewall Jets put in no conditions into the trade in terms of a backup plan for if, because this is the thing, if players get traded, especially to rural Manitoba teams, unless there's conditions in the trade saying that they have to play for them, if you don't figure out and confirm with these players that they want to play for your team, you end up losing them for nothing. That's exactly what happened to the Jets. Goodbranson and Melstead, reportedly, this from Coach Pat Power. I also heard from another source I have in this league that they didn't want to report to camp. So, or not report to camp, sorry, to report to Stonewall. So Stonewall went to shopping and came out of it empty-handed. Lost some talent, of course, was looking to bring in what they thought were upgrades, which would have been in guys like Melstead and Goodbrants. And yeah, they got nothing. They lost 3 players for nothing, which is tough for sure, right? Because this is a team that has, some veteran players on this team. This is a team that was looking to take that next step, and they have in ways now into the playoffs. But now you're looking to solidify your roster, take that further step. Now you have nothing to show for it with no players coming back in their trade. I can't even imagine what the room's thinking as well, right? Like, what just happened? We lost, players that we were, some that I'm sure they were close with, and thinking that these are players that bring solid attributes to our team. We end up losing them for nothing. So, Yeah, a bleak look. Where do you go from here? The Jets, of course, ended off the 2024 portion of the schedule. Yeah, with a bleak December. They got to find, some type of motivation within this group to try to turn things around here because, a move like that, I wonder how it truly affects the morale of this team. I also wonder now, Stonewall, if they start to become sellers now, given that they've slid down in the standings. Still competitive in a playoff spot, but definitely a team that we'll be keeping an eye on here as this season continues to roll along. As for the St. James Junior Canucks, they've gotten some swagger back after starting the season 0-4. Yes, they lose to the Raiders Junior Hockey Club to end off 2024, but St. James now at 12-11-1-1. 7 points off of tying the St. Vital Junior Victorias. This is a team that I don't think anyone really wants to face off in the first round of the playoffs, given that this team, yes, lost some key pieces from last year's championship roster that have been so huge throughout their uh, years of being a dynasty in these past 3 years. But you look at Rory Neal, he's the difference maker on this team, and everyone's kind of just followed him. We've also seen players that have been there before stepping up big time, like Tristan Arneson, a 6 point game against the Victorias last Thursday, and has been really solid for that team. Ashton Romanek, guys like Griffin Height, right? And their goaltending improving, and Connor Murphy now up to top 5 in the league in wins with a 913 save percentage. So this is a team that, the expectation heading into this season and the hopes were for this team, of course, to probably get back to a championship and look to win 4 in a row. But you got to put expectations into reality too, and knowing that not every single season is going to go the same way. And I think for the St. James Junior Canucks, they've been learning to deal with adversity all season long, and now that hope is for this team that you can learn from these experiences and build off of this process to get to a high end level in your game. And that's exactly where the St. James Junior Canucks have gotten to in their game. They used to be way down in the goals against differential. Now that's at an even zero with 96 goals for and 96 goals against. This is a team that can still make you pay on special teams too, and a team that is going to, continue to strike as the game goes along. They're not going to let up on you. So, given that, the relentlessness still of the St. James Junior Canucks team, and as they continue to get more comfortable with the systems they're playing in this year, with Blake Harris as the bench boss, and with them continuing to build confidence with the best player in the league, in my opinion, in Rory Neal. This is a team I think that no one wants to play in the first round, given that not only is St. James searching for a fourth straight championship in a row, but they know that everyone hates them in this league still. They know that everyone wants to beat them, and if any team is going to use that as extra motivation, it's going to be the St. James Junior Canucks. We're going to get into the next 5 teams here coming up after this next commercial break on G-Show Productions edition of the mmjhl podcast Christmas special here in 2024. More to come after this commercial break. Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, the Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store. Welcome back to the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This one, our Christmas special for 2024, brought to you by Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia. Oh, excuse me. Goaltenders, McKenna Fasteners and Tools, and Terrico. Speaking of, we're going to put Terrico onto the screen, showing them some love here on this Christmas morning. We've talked about 5 teams so far. 10th to 6th place in the league. We'll go from 5 to first place in the league now, as we just talked about the St. James Junior Canucks. Now let's talk about the St. Vital Junior Victorias, a team that is 15-9-2-1 heading into the break, 3 points off of their rival in St. Boniface, the Riels, for fourth place as they got 36 points, St. Vital with 33. But it's been a lot of defensive woes so far for the St. Vital Junior Victorias, being outshot on average 34.9 to 31.6, and allowing 101 goals, scoring 109 goals for so far. But yeah, out of any playoff team besides the Raiders, they got the most goals against. Special teams have also ran cold for this team, as yeah, they have one of the lowest ranking power play percentages in the league at 15.2%, ranking 8th, and the worst PK in the league at 76.8. This team simply needs more from their supporting cast, in my opinion. Of course, guys like Kobe Edwards, a rookie in this lineup, has been impressive. His last game, he had 2 goals. And we know that like Tyler Rubini and Rylan Etchwaduke are most likely going to drive this team on a game in, game out basis. But when we take a look at the stats, like for a team searching for a championship, this supporting cast just hasn't been good enough at putting the puck in the net. Rubini has 24 goals, Netraduke has 13. The next best is Aiden Anderson, who's been playing on that top line with 8. After that, it's Connor Mitchell with 8. And look, these guys have shown they could put the puck in the net, but they need more consistency from this group overall. And that's something that assistant coach Mark Taraschuk talked about me. This team talked to me about, in a podcast interview earlier this year, near the start of the season, saying it's all about finding that consistency. I think that for St. Vital, they went out during the offseason, added a really great defenseman in Blake Goretzky. You can argue that they got more talent on this back end compared to last year, but they ended up losing some good forward talent. And, just this team's kind of a one-line team on paper right now, and given the 4 teams above them, and with St. James getting hot, like St. Vital, I think is kind of in this situation right now where maybe you look to add to your forward group through trades with the trade deadline coming up. Maybe you look to add something to this group that, of course, has gone through some injury problems this year. Maybe once they get more consistency with being more healthy, we start to see more consistency in this team. But they just haven't had that availability, right? And you got to kind of work with what you're dealt with. And so far, this team's been dealt with not much offense coming out outside of that top line, really, right, so far this year. So that's got to change for St. Vital. They may have to look to get a bit deeper. I'm not sure what Jeff Mitchell and co has in store coming up. But yeah, this is a team that just, when you're giving up so much defensively like them, you need to supplement something with more offense. And yeah, if that top line, those top 2 aren't going, in Ruby and Netchwaduke, this team's been struggling to find wins when that ends up being the case so far this year. We'll see if things change coming up in 2025 for St. Vital, as they'll be taking on Charleswood to start off the 2025 calendar year. As for the St. Boniface Riels, despite losing 4-0 to the Fort Garry Twins and ending 2024 in 4th place, this is still a team that's a point out from 3rd place, 3 points out from 2nd place, and a team, in my opinion, which may possess the most skill on paper out of any team in the league. When we talk about guys like Connor Davis, rookie Avon Cockrell, returnee Ty McNaughton, Nathan Brzezinski, Carson Dubois. On the back end, we look at guys that they brought in, Mike Hepner, they brought in Alex Van Dynes. On the forward side too, right? In that trade they made with the Pembina Valley Twisters, you got some young studs in terms of Evan Lambert and Kalen Reyes on that back end. Oh, not to mention Noah Keating and Dylan Bachnet being solid, and having one of the best goaltending tandems in the league in O'Sullivan and Alex Dominico. Big time additions for this team. Hepner and Van Dyne's coming in. Since then, their stats have been improving immensely as a team. They are now up to second in goals for per game. On average, their power plays top 5 in the league, which was something that they struggled with immensely last year. Was on the power play, ranking near the bottom of the league in that. And of course, this year the PKs still stayed the same, with it being so dominant at the top of the league right now with an 87.4% kill rate. As for the Reals, this is a team that moves the puck at such a high level, a team with so much speed, and a team that's going to continue to work and pressure you as games go along. It's a team that, with their pace and speed and good defensive ability, haven't spent much time in their defensive zone. And here's a team that can really hem you in and tire you out as games go along. For St. Boniface, their biggest problems were putting the puck in the back of the net, not being able to do so as frequently last year compared to other teams based on the shots they had, and for a while this year until, of course, they made some changes to their lineup, and we've really seen things take off from there for the St. Boniface Reals team. They're deep up front, and it's a team that, is never going to be an easy team to play against. A team that's a championship contender at this point and remains a championship contender at this point in the year. As for the team that beat them, though, most recently in the Fort Garry Twins. And the one thing about St. Boniface is that if there's any knock on their game, maybe looking for a more consistent 60 minutes, as their starts the past 2 games haven't been as great. And against Fort Garry, that really showed as they got down 3-0 to Fort Garry, ended up losing that one 4-0. As Fort Garry remained the hottest team in the mmjhl heading into the break with 5 straight wins. This is the most talented Twins team I think that I've ever seen them have on paper. Of course, they bolstered their lineup scoring-wise by adding Rylan Huging at the start of this year, who's top 4 on the team in points, but Dean Gorchinski, Carter Halamandares, David Balshaw, Sam Mataniel on the back end, who was co-winner of Defenseman of the Year in this league last year, Ethan Johnson, Matt Lazat. The list goes on for this team. They are loaded, deepest team we've seen in years, and a team that is ready to win now. For me, the buy-in is make or break for this team. From the stories I've heard throughout the years, this team has had talented rosters, but guys have had, maybe conflicts with work or maybe just haven't been motivated in the end, right? These are just stories I've heard throughout the years from within this Twins organization. And if this Twins team wants any chance of going far in the playoffs this year, they have the squad, and they've had a squad to go at least to the second round in the playoffs in years before. On paper, it just hasn't panned out. It's about this coaching staff, in my opinion, at this point. You got the talent. What can this coaching staff do in their second year to finally get this team over the hump? And I think that in itself for Fort Garry was such a positive heading into this year. A team that seems like they're always looking for a new coach year in, year out, at least getting that stability with Scott Wong and his coaching staff into this year with this group that, of course, got a year older and is returning with each other. I think that was massive for this team. It's just about, can Scott Wong and his group get the most out of these players now come playoff time? And can you do enough? Can you make these players want to be there until the end? Can you make them want to buy in consistently and be there? I think that if we can see a change in that for Fort Garry, this could be a team that potentially, not saying most definitely, but potentially could make a run here come playoff time with the amount of talent that they have. Going to be tough, though, to beat these top 2 teams coming up in the playoffs, heading in as the Charleswood Hawks, a team that's been one of the most consistent in the mmjhl so far here this year with a 19-6-1 record, 108 goals for, 70 goals against. Made that move to bring in Cole Penner at the start of the year, trading away Rylan Huging, of course, in that. And for Penner, he had a goal this past weekend against the Stonewall Jets. And for Penner, of course, near the top of the team in points with 26 points in 26 games played so far. But like the St. Boniface Reals, a very skilled team on paper, a team that plays fast. Matt Carlson, Elliot Lewis, Cole Penner, those guys are studs, right? Then you got guys like Tyson Sperber, the Braden Stevensons, the Nathan Vigfussens, guys that are going to work hard and put the puck in the back of the net. Speaking of guys that work hard, they got one of the best forecheckers in the league in Riley Dudich as well. A loaded back end led by Lucas Van Norman, the captain of this year's team. They had Krekowitz from the Raiders, which I thought that was such a great move for this team to bolster an already situation on their team that is already a strength for them defensively, as they're one of the best defensive teams in the league. They've improved defensively too compared to last year to this year, a team that's averaging more shots for per game compared to shots against. And I feel like it comes down to just a strong culture that this team has built. They got one of the best front offices in the league. They've added my uncle to their coaching staff, one of the best video coaches in the league, in Marc Boulanger. They got championship pedigree on that staff as well, with Dylan Smith, of course, winning championship, winning 4 back in his day as a Charleswood Hawks player, and a team that has a lot of players motivated and ready to take that next step to try to break through to a final, as they've lost out in the final for the past 2 years, getting swept last year against St. James, and of course the year before losing in 7 games to the St. Vital Junior Victorias. But yeah, a team that plays with a lot of speed, a team that has shown that they can shut it down defensively. They've added throughout this season to their team to bolster their lineup. Yeah, I feel like they're really happy with their personnel right now that they got out on the ice. And a team that just has consistently been able to get in the win column all season long. A team that can burn you with their speed and can be a lot for teams to handle. The only thing, I guess the only knock on Charleswood is when they have lost games this year, maybe they come out a bit slower, right? And that's been the case at points against the Transcona Railer Express and their losses against them. As for Transcona, 12-2 in their last 14 games. They've been phenomenal. They were on a 10-game winning streak until it was snapped against the Charleswood Hawks. Dropped 2 in a row, but ended off with 2 wins in 2024. It's been about getting ahead for this team, playing with the lead. That's when they play best. Then they can really establish their game, get comfortable in it, and really start to kind of set the pace and control things. Special teams has been a huge part of their success too. They got the number 1 ranked power play in the league, as well as the number 2 ranked penalty kill. One of the best goaltending tandems in the league, arguably the best, with Delarone and Maroney backstopping this team. This team, like St. Boniface, like Charleswood, like the Twins, they got a lot of pieces that can beat you. Nolan Vandenbush, Nathan Turner, Evan Chudley. The list goes on for this team. They got players that can contribute offensively on the back end. A team that plays physical, a team that will get under your skin, and a team that, is really taken that next step so far this year. Like talked about, I thought maybe this team would take a big step and be middle of the pack in the standings, but they've done much more than that, skyrocketing to the top. Yeah, this is a team that has a phenomenal forecheck, a forecheck that can get after you. It's a team that plays with pace, a lot of it, and doesn't really back off and let their foot off the gas. But it is a Transcon Railer Express team, which if you do get up on them, you start to get them frustrated a bit. Then you have them chasing the game, and maybe they're not as comfortable then. So that's going to be the key to beating this team, as well as finding a way to shutting down their special teams, right? Because when you're able to have strong 5-on-5 play like they do, and adding on top of that the number 1 ranked power play in the league, and even when they're taking penalties, you're able to kill them off with success. That gives your group a lot of confidence, a group that Derek Gagnon coaches, that I'm sure that he's been feeling a lot of confidence from him as this season has been going along so far. Yeah, the only thing that I think is standing in their way is, of course, you know, we gotta take a look more at if this team does get down in games. How do they respond as the season continues to go along, and come playoff time, given that some of these top teams in the league have a bit more, I guess, experience of being in the playoffs. Given that Transcona, of course, only made it to the first round last year and got knocked out with a pretty young group, we'll see how that youth, maybe a bit of inexperience, ends up treating them down the line in a season where they're looking to have a huge playoff run. Of course, playoffs are going to be starting in, I believe, March this year. It's going to be exciting. 2 full months of MMJHL hockey coming your way as well. Before that, which we'll be covering many games here on the network on MMJHL Game Day on G Show Productions on gshow.ca. But yeah, as for this Christmas special, everybody, we're going to take one last commercial break, and we'll be back with some final words here on the MMJHL podcast here on G Show Productions on gshow.ca.
Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has been the place to shop for your industrial needs for over 20 years. Carrying the tools you need to get the job done from the brands you can trust, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has you covered. Brands like Milwaukee Tool, established in 1924 and on display in our Milwaukee Red Zone, the largest red zone in Winnipeg. With construction workers and tradespeople in mind, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools is your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs.
So come on down to our Winnipeg store location today.
Located on 1557 King Edward Street in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Well, you made it to the end here of the MMJHL Christmas special here in 2024 on G Show Productions. I've been your host, Graham, the G Show Forsyth. Special thanks to you, MMJHL fans, for tuning into this one. If you did on this Christmas day in 2024, I hope that everyone, once again, has a wonderful and Merry Christmas if you are celebrating it, enjoying time with friends and family. And for those celebrating the holidays in general, happy holidays to all, and wishing you all the best coming up in 2025. We're going to be coming back with even better content coming up in 2025, as we'll have more editions of the MMJHL podcast, more highlights, more guests, and everything going to be taken up a notch as we're heading into the final months of the 2024-2025 regular season coming up soon here. We'll have all the coverage coming up. MMJHL Game Day returns on January 2nd at St. Vital Arena between the Vics and Hawks. Should be a fantastic one, and should be a fantastic holiday season, everybody. Until we see you next time in 2025, I've been your host, Graham, the G Show Forsyth. I want to also give a special thanks to our sponsors in Terrico, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, Goaltenders, and Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia for sponsoring another edition of this show. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all of them, as well as to all of our viewers. Take care, everybody. Graham, the G Show Forsyth, giving you the peace out and waving so long. Take care, everybody. Merry Christmas.